So I get a lot of fragrance questions every single day in my comments, and sometimes I take some of them and answer them in a video like this. We got a lot of questions to go through, so let's just get to it. Bleu de Chanel Parfum or Eau de Parfum. Both are doing the same thing, but in slightly different ways. I do think it's hard to go wrong with any of them, but I do prefer the Eau de Parfum. Looking for cologne for date nights and special occasions, would you recommend Azzaro the Most Wanted or Armani Strong With You Intensely? I've talked a lot about both. I've compared both several times, so make sure you check those videos out. You really can't go wrong with either for date nights, but if I had to choose just one of them, I would go with Azzaro the Most Wanted Eau de Parfum. Which shampoo Gaultier would you recommend for summer? Le Beau Paradise Garden, the OG Le Beau, and Le Male Pride Edition are definitely my top 3 go-to shampoo Gaultiers for summer. And I've been through multiple bottles of both the OG Le Beau and Le Male Pride Edition. Pride is basically orange blossom with citrus on top of soft musk, so a good choice if you enjoy orange blossom. The two Le Beaus are focused on that Le Beau Vanilla Coconut combo, but Paradise Garden is definitely the more intensely fresh out of the two. And Pride Edition is very different compared to the Le Beaus. Now they changed the bottle of Le Male Pride Edition several times, but I do believe it's pretty much the same juice in newer bottles. I could be wrong, I haven't tried the 2024 version, but I believe they are pretty much the same. Can Born in Roma Core Fantasy be used for summer and for everyday? So I highly recommend checking out my Valentino comparison video for more. To me, Core Fantasy can be used as an everyday fragrance because I don't think it's pushing too intensely in any specific direction. But with that said, I do think it's pretty much perfect for fall, spring and summer nights. For intensely warm days, I would reach for something with a bit more freshness in it, which in this line are Rockstar Noir and the OG Born in Roma. And the best ones in the line for everyday use are the OG Born in Roma and Rockstar Noir. So the next question, I love Le Male Parfum, but I hate Le Male Elixir. Will I like Le Male Elixir Absolu? Impossible to know for sure, but I'm gonna guess no. Because you say you hate Le Male Elixir, and Le Male Elixir Absolu definitely has some similarities to the OG Elixir. I recommend checking out my reviews of both more. But again, Absolu definitely has some similarities to Le Male Elixir, so if you absolutely hate Le Male Elixir, there's a pretty high chance you won't enjoy Absolu. Should I go with Dior Homme 2020 or Dior Homme Sport for everyday spring fragrance? I think you can go with either. Both are woody with a bit of freshness. Sport, however, is more fresh, so a good choice if you prefer that. The woodiness is not the same and they do not smell exactly the same, but both work as an everyday spring fragrance for sure. I'm gonna link to my favorite everyday fragrances video above. Dior Homme 2020 is among some of my favorites for everyday use. What does dry down mean? Good question, thank you. The dry down is the part where the fragrance finally settles down. When you reach the dry down of a fragrance, you've gone through the opening and the mids and experienced most of the scent. The opening is that initial part you experience when you spray it on, and the mids or the heart is when you move past the opening but not reach the full dry down. How long each part lasts is so different from fragrance to fragrance. Openings are usually quite short-lived though, mids often last longer, and the dry down is usually the longest lasting part of a scent. But how long each part lasts vary a lot and really depends on the fragrance. And I have fragrances that almost seem to go straight from the opening to the dry down, and some of my fragrances have parts that last a long time. And others are very linear without much change throughout the different phases. Not part of your question, but I do recommend waiting for the drawdown when trying a fragrance out. Since a fragrance can change a lot, I do recommend experiencing all parts of a scent before deciding on buying it or not. What do the ranking means, i.e. what is 7 out of 10 longevity? So that info is all about the performance of a fragrance, and I do try to include that info as often as I can. Usually it looks like this, with projection meaning how strongly a fragrance radiates off your skin, and longevity how long it stays on your skin. The higher the projection rating, the more easily noticeable a fragrance is to others. A 10 out of 10 projection rating means it's a beast mode and most likely a room filler. The higher the longevity rating, the longer it stays on your skin. But just because something lasts long doesn't mean you can easily get a whiff of it. How a fragrance performs is so different depending on your skin, your spraying routine, weather and more, so it can differ from person to person. Is Myslf Eau de Parfum for summer and spring or all year round? The Eau de Parfum is basically a mix of freshness, white florals with soft woodiness. It's not too deep or too heavy, and it's definitely a scent that can be worn throughout the year to most occasions, making it a good everyday kind of fragrance. Which Strong With You is the most masculine and performs to the best? Good question, so I highly recommend checking out my Armani Strong With You ranked video, which I'll link to above. So while the projection and longevity vary a bit between them all, I do feel that most of them sort of performs about the same. But to me, I would say it's mostly between Strong With You Leather, Strong With You Oud, Strong With You Tobacco, and Strong With You Absolutely. These four are probably the most masculine. Tobacco pushing smokiness, sweetness, and spices with vanilla. Leather going all in on leather and that Strong With You DNA. Oud obviously being the woody one, and Absolutely being the boozy and woody take on that Strong With You DNA. I think they all have different, quite masculine parts about them, so it's almost a toss-up. But if I had to narrow it down, I would say it's probably between Strong With You Leather and Strong With You Absolutely. I'm eyeing the Kenzo lineup. Which piece do you think would work best for the office this summer? So for that, I'm thinking either marine or indigo. Marine if you prefer that Kenzo Homme DNA in a lighter and brighter way with woodiness and a floral touch, or indigo if you prefer that DNA in a more woody and leathery blend that's softly powdery. Missoni Wave, good or not? I think it's a great freshie that smells more expensive than it is. $50 for 100 ml of juice that smells this nice is really good. And I mentioned this before, I don't always spray on clothes, but the dry run of Wave on clothes is so addictive. So next question, explain to me why some fragrances are for summer, for winter, etc. This is a really good question. So you can wear anything you want, anytime, anywhere. If whatever you choose is a good thing or not really depends on you and how you perceive scents. To me, this comes down to a few different things. Two of those are number one, how a scent develops in different kinds of weather. Some fragrances truly shine with a bit of warmth, and some become cloying when it's too warm. A lot of fresh scents are the best under the sun, when your skin gets a bit warm. And some fragrances are the very best when it's a bit colder. Number two, how I feel about the scent during different parts of the year. When it's really warm, I usually crave something that is really fresh and refreshing. And when it's colder, I usually crave more richer, deeper and warmer scents. Summer nights are a different thing when I often spray on something with a bit more depth. And some fragrances I love so much that I use them throughout the year. I think the best you can do is to just spray something on, see how it develops on your skin and see if you like it or not. What is the best cologne for a date night? I've done quite a lot of videos and posts on this, so make sure you check those out. But with that said, here are 5 of some of the best. Le Male Parfum, the most wanted Eau de Parfum, Chanel Allure Sport Eau Extreme, Born Aroma Core Fantasy, and Percival if you prefer something more fresh. Le Beau Paradise Garden or Kenzo Homme Marine. Good question. I know some feel Le Beau Paradise Garden has a lot of similarities to the Kenzos, but I do feel there's a difference. But if I had to choose, I would probably go with Le Beau Paradise Garden. This to me was the best release of 2024, and I think it's a fantastic take on that Le Beau DNA. With that said, I love Homme Marine, and I think this line is among some of the most unique freshies out there. I'm gonna link to my Kenzo Homme comparison video above, so make sure you check it out. Givenchy Gentleman Society Ombre or YSL Myself Le Parfum for date night, pool halls or bar hopping. So they are very different, and I would probably go with Myself Le Parfum. It's definitely the most mass appealing out of the two that most would love to get a whiff of. But I would bring an atomizer with me to top it up every now and then. I'm planning on getting Missoni Wave. How's that for spring? Missoni Wave is basically a freshie with a nuanced dose of freshness and soft woodiness. I think it shines the most during warmer days, but it can definitely be used for spring. 1 million Golden Oud or Gucci Intense Oud and why? So a tough one because both are really nice if you enjoy the kind of scent that they are. And sort of a simplified Gucci Intense Oud if you want more oud, and 1 million Golden Oud if you want more leather. But if I had to choose, I would go with Gucci Intense Oud. It's just so well made, smells luxurious, and I do enjoy wearing it more. Would you say Strong With You Leather is better than Tom Ford Ombre Leather? Interesting one, both are leather focused scents, but also very, very different. So this requires a more nuanced answer. Ombre Leather to me pushes a different, more intense kind of leather to the max, whereas Strong With You Leather takes that Strong With You vanilla and aromatic DNA and blends it with a very smooth dose of leather. So comparing them almost feels weird because they do satisfy my craving for leather in very different ways. Strong With You Leather when I want leather done in a very mass appealing way. Ombre Leather when I want leather done in a richer, deeper and more intense way. So Strong With You Leather is better when it comes to mass appeal and in a way wearability. And Ombre Leather is better when it comes to a more realistic and more intense dose of leather. What's the best Baccarat Rouge 540 clone in your opinion? I know there are a ton of clones out there. I have not tried them all. Two that I bought that I think are great are Rosasi Catamat Barrique and Armaf Club de Nuit Untold. Both are compliment gears that give me that 540 vibe without being exactly the same. I would love to hear if anyone has something that smells even better than these two. So what's the difference between Red Label Extreme and Civil Label? Good question. So as far as I know, it's just a design change. Most of the ones I bought are older bottles that now has new bottles and new labels. So I have not tried the juice inside all the newer bottles, but out of the ones I have tried, it seems like the juice is pretty much the same. Again, I have not tried all the newer ones, so I could be wrong. Make sure you share your thoughts on this in the comments if you have tried both versions of something in the L'Ombrea line. Make sure you check out my videos over there, and I'll see you in the next one.